I mean, from everything I saw, people were like, "Oh, Kobe it was a boring fight. He just wrestled him. They should have just stood and fought." I'm like, I mean, Colby was doing stuff on the ground to him too. It's
Colby
not his fault
dominated.
Masvidal couldn't block anything.
Colby dominated for all but one punch. That was
Yeah.
like, it's crazy. Like, how could you say that was boring? He stood him up, he would take him down. He'd stand him up, he'd take him down. He outstruck Masvidal, which that was the entire game for Masvidal. Um, they're not even close in terms of skill, is how I
Yeah.
look at it.
I liked how he said afterwards, he's like, I could have finished it, but I wanted there to be no doubt in it that I was the better fighter. So I made it go to decision. I mean, he probably is going to say that no matter what the decision is, but it looked like he could have finished it in multiple times and just was like, "No, I'm just gonna make this guy suffer."
When he had Masvidal against the cage, there's no reason that he didn't finish it, other than the fact that he didn't want to, because he could have just kept laying him on and it would have taken him down, and he would have ended up winning this probably by TKO. Instead, what he does is that he clinches him, and decides he's going to just take him down just to show him that he is so much better than Masvidal. This is exactly what was happening when they were training together many years ago. There's no way there's going to be any question now who was the better of the two roommates. There was still a lot of bad blood, even though it looked like Masvidal was mentally defeated. But then Colby, barely breathing heavily, is still sitting there saying, "Let's keep going. Let's go 5 more rounds." The fact that he was able to say that and looked like he hadn't even gotten into the octagon originally is incredible to show how great his cardio is.
Yeah, I mean that's his greatest strength is his cardio.
And I'll say it wasn't even his greatest performance. Like, that's the craziest part of this. He definitely was fighting emotionally. But Colby took care of business. He did exactly what he said he was going to do. And he did it from start to finish, from Thursday morning, talking at the press conference, all the way through early Sunday morning when he was doing his press conference with the UFC media.
Yep. And his last 3 wins, aren't they all against ATT?
Yeah, so his last 3 wins come against either people that are at ATT or were at ATT, with Masvidal, Tyron Woodley, who's now up at Rufus Sport in Milwaukee, and then Robbie Lawler, who I think is still at ATT, but that one I'm not too sure of. And then obviously he has 2 fights in the middle of that with Kamaru, but you could say Kamaru, he's the only person that even really touch him that much. You could say Gilbert Burns fight with him. Maybe Burns won that first round, but after that first round, he was dead too. So Colby's the only real competition to this point that we've seen against Usman. The only question might end up being Khamzat, but that's something for a different day.
Yeah. And then afterwards, he calls out Dustin Poirier.
The Louisiana Swamp Trash. More family attacks. He wants to take down every single member of ATT, and we're going to get into this a little bit later on the show. But we think that the Poirier fight very well could happen.
Yeah, and we think it might be for something that we'll get into later.